Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so it's been reported that Ben Simmons and the 76ers reached a settlement agreement for him to recoup a portion of his $20 million that was lost in the season that was held out in regards to mental health concerns and things of that nature. Of course, there was a lot going on there. That was the discrepancy in regards to what was going on with his mental health. I don't know enough about things in this regard to speak about what is fair, what isn't fair, as it pertains to what the settlement was and all of that. I really, really, really don't know what to say in that regard. But what I can say is I'm happy that they've reached an agreement of some sort and that both parties can move on. I was very vocal about how I felt about the situation throughout the meat and potatoes of the situation. I had a lot of opinions about what Philly should do with his contract and all of that, but I think they played it about as well as they could. And, I had to say I was wrong. I thought they should trade him for John Wall and all of that. But one thing I did say is that I felt that they needed to be more sensitive to his mental health, and I was very critical of that. And I was very angry about some of the conversations surrounding the situation with Ben Simmons' mental health and how he was mistreated, in my eyes, based on certain assumptions about what he was presenting versus what it is that he was saying was wrong. And it was because of my own personal life and experiences with mental health that are similar to what it is I'm describing there. So for me, it was like, well, damn, I'm like that, and you would too think I'm okay, right? So it's like, for me, I took it very personally. And you can go back and take a look at those videos. I left them up. Stand by all of what I said, but I'll stand by this as well. I think Ben Simmons has played it well, man. I think he did what he needed to do to keep himself in his dignity. He's taken on a lot of bad energy, I'd imagine, but I never doubted that he was honest about his mental health. I never doubted that, and I still don't doubt it. And it was because of a very, very specific point. He truly did have issues with the three-point shot that seemed as if they were manifested internally. Do you understand what I'm saying? And for a player to be of that level, to understand the game the way that I know he does, and I don't listen to other pundits, I go by my own studying and my own history with the game. The way I know he sees the game, I know he knows logically that it makes sense for him to shoot the ball. I know that. I, BDF44, need no one to explain that to me. I know he knows that. So if he can't convince himself to do something that is logical within a space that he excels in, he's great at it, there's something really, really wrong. Because he's in a space where he's the master of that field. He's a basketball player who is an elevated player. He's not a role player. He's elevated. Every time you see him out there, he's one of the best guys at all times. And he's controlling the pace. He's controlling where the ball goes, down to where the shots are being taken. A lot of the times, he's the guy getting the ball to where it needs to be in order for the shot to be taken. So he knows the importance of three-point shots. He's creating them for others. But he can't bring himself to take them himself. No. I identify with that because I knew in certain instances in my own life, I knew that I needed to do certain things and could logically listen to people tell me why it needed to be done. Couldn't bring myself to do it because of other things that were going on internally that I could not explain to others, but if they looked at me, couldn't figure out for themselves. So they just called me lazy or this or that. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I have this, could he have it too? Because I've never seen anybody else who has it. I'm the only person I've ever heard of with the symptoms I have, except for that guy, a basketball player. And everybody's looking at him saying, you don't have any problems. Just they looked at me and said, you don't have any problems. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I really do. It's just that I was raised a certain way so that I can be in the presence of you and make it seem like I don't. And, I'm spiritually sound, so I'm not running around acting crazy, and I'm intelligent. So I've been able to pick up what norms are and what they aren't. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I can present a very sane person. I can present a lot of different things as creative to you. But if I'm just being myself, I like presenting what's authentic, which is, hey, I have issues and I'm struggling with it. But I'm also smart enough to see where other people don't see what it is that I see in myself in someone else. And so while everybody's saying he doesn't have a problem, he's lying, I just know if I were him, they would do the same thing to me. I know it. I know it. But the presence of him lying could also be possible as well. I'm smart enough to see both. Just because I can look at somebody and project forward doesn't mean I can just be certain of that projection being accurate. So I had to leave myself objective to a degree, but I kept remembering the fact that the man was scared to shoot. And this was well before the playoff moment that defined the situation. No, we're talking about years. A year, I ain't gonna say years, but I'd say a year into his playing career, it was very clear that, no shooting, not gonna do it. Not even if it makes sense at all. And so, I couldn't shake that. I don't care what people are telling me about this man. That didn't ever make any sense, and I never forgot it. So once he comes out and says he has mental health issues, I'm like, yeah, okay, now it makes sense. While everybody else is screaming, rah, 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 I'm finding complete clarity. I'm like, well, damn, that's what's been wrong with Ben. He's struggling with the same thing probably I am. He's probably has some issues that are making it so that he can't overcome certain things for whatever reason. And so he's going to need time to overcome that. So I immediately switched my thinking to, okay, we're dealing with someone who's delicate in nature, right? Regardless of what you see. The face doesn't match all that. It's a big guy. You would expect him to have it all together, but it's not how the brain works at all. So as I look at the situation, I'm like, wow, they're really applying worse energy. And it's like, because they don't believe he's ill, if he is ill, this is making him sicker, right? It's making him sicker. And so it's one of those situations where I'm like, man, I still think there are things to consider in regards to Ben Simmons. I think he's done the work. Clearly, he looks like he's ready to go, and hopefully he's on his journey back to being the best player he can be. I think this is a great step toward him getting that. I really do. This settlement is justifying that there was some misunderstanding in regards to what was actually taking place with him back then, which is all I really ever wanted anybody to take a look at. Like, could we be wrong about this guy? Could we be wrong? And everybody looks at him and says, oh, he projects a arrogance, And I'm like, could that not be a defense mechanism in and of itself? Could that not be a byproduct of something that would have something to do with that mental health circumstance? Could it not be wrapped up in it? All of these things come to mind because I spend so much time internalizing my own circumstances. So as I look at him, I say, man, this is a win, because the last thing he needed was to continue to be bombarded with questions about whether or not his mental health concerns were valid. I can assure you the Philadelphia 76ers would not be forking over any money if there wasn't hard paper proof that his mental health issues were real. And that's the point. Took me 8 minutes to say that. We're certain now, for all these people who are saying he's capping about his mental health, Philly ain't giving over a dime if he was. Not a dime. Ain't no way in hell I'm giving any portion of $20 million unless I can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that that boy has the exact same thing that he says is wrong with him is wrong with him. Not something wrong with him. He had better have what's wrong with him, what he said was wrong with him, before I be about any of that money. And apparently, the word agreement says that they've come to an agreement. So I'm gonna assume that they've had that satisfied within themselves, or something like that. Maybe they always knew. I don't know. Maybe they owe him more than this because of how he was treated. I don't know, but I am glad he was able to get this victory. And I'm gonna say this in this video as well, Brooklyn Nets. You're asking this young man to be a part of a win-now situation that is volatile. Can we start addressing his mental health clearly now as it pertains to the environment that you're creating for this guy to be a part of? Regardless of what your plans are with the players that you have in place, please understand there are things that you're going to have to just allow in regards to Ben Simmons' mental health. If he needs some time off, give it to him. That's what I'm saying. Don't Kyrie that kid. Because now we know his mental health concerns are real and he's on the path to health. And that means that he's going to try to play for y'all. But there may be some things that come down the road. And you're just going to have to deal with them. And that goes for any organization that gets him or anyone like him. It doesn't mean that you push these people out the league at all. It just means that you have to accommodate to them in ways that don't destroy yourself. And that is very important. That is very important. You got to balance it out. So, you know, this is it. This is how it goes, man. We are learning about mental health in real time. There are a lot of things that we just haven't yet figured out in science and life, period. We're still growing. And I'm telling you, we are growing in the area of mental health by leaps and bounds. And I think Ben Simmons, I think if his situation is authentic, which it appears that the evidence shows us it is, then he could be a case study as well as myself for something that maybe we haven't talked too much about. You know what I mean? And so that's what I've been getting on this camera for, talking all these different things about my personal life. It's about trying to figure out what it is that maybe I've been dealing with that I've never seen or heard of before, like ever. And so I'm not going to get into my own self anymore than I already have in previous videos. If you want to check those out, check my therapy session videos out and any others that I did when I first started the channel. Scroll forever, you'll get to the bottom. Because it's going to take that long of them thousands of videos. I'm sure I've never even checked to see how many. But what I can say is I've confessed a great deal about my mental health throughout. And it's a real thing for a person to be able to project clearly and still struggle internally. It's a very, very, very real thing for a person to have a lot of talents and barely have it together. That should be common at this point. Artists struggle. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't know that that's 100% the case because that's lumping some people in that I've never even heard of, right? But in most cases, the more talented the person, the more they struggle with conforming to certain norms, sarcasm and things of that nature that sometimes they're a little more literal than they need to be. These type of things you just got to be patient with people like us. They're different, but we can also help mold the future in some ways, depending on if we're making any sense or not. We can really be people that help create a new way of doing certain things. So that's why I think people like myself can provide. You know, even though we struggle, maybe a little help here and there, some things may need you to point us over there in this direction once or twice, but you may want to listen to what we have to say as well, because what we're also doing is paying attention to things that you're not a lot of the times. And so that is where the value is, I believe. So I don't want to lump anybody else with me in that regard. But what I can say is I'm glad Ben Simmons is getting a win in this situation. I know not too many people were rooting for him because they weren't trained to. You had to think independently in order to want to see this guy win, because the chatter is going to tell you otherwise. But man, I tell you, I can relate to what it is he's saying he has in a very real way. And so that's what I wanted to say, man. BDL 44. Thank you all for watching. I'm out.